Virginia smoke. OVS, Old Virginia smoke. OVS, Old Virginia smoke. OVS, Old Virginia smoke. Old Virginia.
My name is Luke Darnell, Pitmaster of Old Virginia Smoked Barbecue, and I'm here to tell you about my new online class available at barbecuechamps.com. This is a 100% tell-all competition barbecue class from yours truly, available online. It is a masterclass with 34 high-definition tell-all online competition barbecue videos that can be watched anytime, and they do not expire. They are packed full of pro tips, techniques, and recipes that will show you how to take your barbecue to the next level. These 34 barbecue cooking videos total 7 hours and will show you everything that you need to take your competition cooking to a level that you never thought was possible. We've already heard from several teams that have bought our classes and have already seen success and gotten their first calls. So this is something that brings me a lot of joy in sharing my knowledge and seeing people be successful with it. So are you ready to take your competition and backyard cooking to the next level? What are you waiting for? Just go ahead and go to barbecuechamps.com and find Luke Darnell, Old Virginia Smoke. We hope you learn a lot and enjoy these videos and have as much fun cooking these recipes as we had making them. This podcast is brought to you by BarbecueData.com. BarbecueData.com is your one-stop shop for all of your barbecue competition data. Historical data, calls, wins, placements, everything under one roof. It's a great way not only to track yourself in the standings, but also to track how you improve your scores from year to year. Listeners of this podcast can receive 20% off of a new subscription to BarbecueData.com with the code PITPOD. That's one word, all capital letters, PITPOD, PITPOD. So check your team scores, check on others, and do it all on barbecuedata.com. Hello, welcome to another episode of Pitmaster and Old Virginia Smoke Podcast. My name is Luke Darnell, host of the podcast and Pitmaster of Old Virginia Smoke, and I'm here with my ABC and 1, 2, 3, Brian Corbett from Smoke and Scully's. How you doing, bud?
Doing good, Luke. How about you?
I'm good. I just completed what I like to call my spring training for barbecue.
Oh.
And you were a big part of that. This was the third weekend that I cooked in a row, and we went down to Mission Farms in Iron Station, North Carolina, which, if it sounds like it's in the middle of nowhere, it is. I mean, we're not that far from Charlotte, so, but beautiful venue. Have to give it up to Lee and his family that put on the event. They did a great job. Didn't start out the best for me, but we made it work and got it there. So lots of fun.
It was a ton of fun, to be honest. And you're right. An absolutely beautiful venue. It's where Lee and Jenny Shank, it's actually their home and Lee's hub for his business, but it's also a wedding venue that I think his wife Jenny kind of runs. I mean, just a gorgeous, gorgeous venue they built to host weddings, and I'm sure they do other kind of corporate parties overlooking this beautiful pasture area with a pond, and it's good. It's nice. It's a really beautiful venue.
Yeah, and got to cook on my old Jambo, which I sold roughly 4 months ago. And George DeMartz and Brian Turner made sure it was there, and got to give old girl a spin, and so Brian and I were in an interesting setup situation in that we were underneath this basically lean-to against this building with a bunch of farm equipment and then spaces for both of us to cook. So we were cooking side by side, Jambo and Outlaw sitting pretty much parallel to each other, and had a absolutely fantastic time cooking.
Had a wonderful time. That's the second year in a row I've been able to cook in that same, under that lean-to shelter thing. And it's quite nice, especially this time of the year when the wind blows in February. It might come up a little rain shower, and you don't have to worry about popping up a tent or it blowing away or anything. It's nice. You just unhook the cooker, take your cooler tables out, and done. So it was good. It's always fun time cooking beside Old Virginia Smoke. That's for sure.
And you've actually become quite the master of cooking in a very pop-up, I'm going to go with minimalist setup. And I have tried to take a lot of lessons and cues from what you do, and you've got it down to an art. I still bring a ton of stuff compared to what you bring. But I think if I get this cool toolbox that you have, that might consolidate a lot of that.
Yeah, the Craftsman toolbox, that I call it comp in a box. If I can't fit it in that box, and I got a bus fan that I carry, like my injector bottles and my trays and whatever. If I can't fit it in that Craftsman box and that bus pan, it does not need to come to a cook off to me. And honestly, that Craftsman box is actually too big for what I need. But it wasn't always that way. My son plays travel soccer. You and I have talked about that quite a bit. And so I don't have the luxury that I had years ago of typically showing up on Thursday and leaving Sunday morning and making a 3-night ordeal out of it, where I could literally bring, because I had a fifth wheel camper or whatever, and just have all my stuff in there and more stuff than I needed. Well, when I had to kind of speed how I cook up, as far as arriving on Friday and leaving out a lot of times on Saturdays, when you try to load up all the stuff that was in the camper into a truck, it becomes exceedingly difficult. But it's funny because Brian Turner calls me a minimalist too when it comes to cooking. And honestly, it's helped me become more consistent in my cooking, because I quite literally bring what I need. And I am terrible if somebody gives me a shaker or a rub that I've never seen or tried at a contest. I think it's actually impossible. I don't have the willpower to not try it at that contest. And so I literally bring what I use. And if people come over there and they go, "Hey man, do you have any of this? Do you have any of that?" And I go, "Not here." I might at home, but not here.
That's funny because it's the same way with, even when we have the trailer, that's the same for us. We do not carry anything extra, which I've always wondered why we didn't. Just because in case something were to go wrong, which happened to us 2 weeks ago in Haines City, or Davenport, Florida. I had driven all the way down there, and I had 2 containers of our chicken sauce, and opened the one up that I had brought to Davenport, and water had gotten into it in the cooler.
Oh, wow.
And so I was there stuck trying to make a sauce out of nothing with stuff that I had or could borrow. And obviously that didn't sit well with the Little General or the judges. So that was a lesson learned in terms of when you're traveling that far for a contest, make sure you're taking care of the things that you cannot readily replace.
Well, if you're going to mix the sauces like that and put them in a cooler and travel, just an idea, you could always take that little container and put it in a vacuum seal bag and just seal the bag up. Water's not going to get in that. If the jar leaks, it's all going to be contained in the sealed up bag anyway. But yeah, I can see where that would be a problem. And, using as few products as I use, you watched it all weekend. I don't use very many products. It's easy for me to run a checklist before a contest and go this, and I'll reach number 9 or 10, and she's got her wrapped up. So, case in point, this weekend, what I was talking about, I had some new products on my table that I had not even opened before, and on the fly, I was like, "I'm going to use these on ribs," and you were like, "Just like that?" "Oh, yep, we're going to run it." Now, did not score very well. Made a fantastic eating rib, but I don't know that I would run that profile again, at least in the manner with which I tried this weekend.
It tasted wonderful, but
fantastic.
As I told you at the time, I said, that's a Fred McGriff rib. It's either going to hit a home run or strike out.
That's exactly right.
But that's, when I was thinking about this podcast, there were several cool things that happened. Well, cool and telling things that happened when we were cooking next to each other this weekend, because we were very open about what we were doing. You and I don't have any secrets really anyway. Mm-hmm. And, we're cooking and we're doing our thing. And, I tried something a little bit different with my fire. You were just kicking the rust off and doing a damn good job of it. First contest out of the gate. And it was just fun going back and forth and trading our food and seeing how different things were, how similar they were, especially since we did this pretty close to the same time last year.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got to the third category. We got to the pork category. So just to give a rundown of how it went, like I actually finally cooked a good piece of chicken this year and I was very excited to give it to Brian, and Brian confirmed that it was good. I had Brian's chicken. It was completely different than mine. And I was like, this will be pretty telling whenever we get to awards. And I got fourth place chicken, and I'm sitting there going, cool. And then Brian wins chicken. So I'm like, okay, that's interesting because of how different they were. We've already discussed Brian's rib. It was a little bit different. I'd eat it all day. I'd eat a rack and a half of those. My rib it was good, not great. Finished 13th. Kind of got what it deserved. But then we get to the third category. And pork has always been my nemesis. And actually, the last time I think the two of us were on this podcast together, we talked about how taking your weak meat and making it your best meat.
We did. That was in November. We were talking about kind of assessing your year, how you improve going into the next year. So, yeah, we discussed strengthening your weakest category. I think it's fair to say, based on this weekend's results, neither one of us did that, at least at this contest.
No. And I actually have 3 weeks of data to confirm that not only have I taken my worst meat and not improved it, but I've actually gotten worse at it. And I was calling it the pork yips, and I got the yips in pork, but I think more appropriately is I have the pork shanks.
Yeah, I like that. The pork shanks, yeah.
And
All
so I was trying some different things that, I had gleaned from some sources and watched other people do, and just wanted to try them out. And man, it has gone awry. And we have spent a lot of time talking about this over the past 72 hours, actually. And it's been telling to see, I was doing things out of my comfort zone and doing things that I normally don't do. And you even recognized it during the cook.
Yep.
You were watching me with pork on the board, and I'll let you tell it.
Well, I'm not going to go into great detail, but where we started, I think we started working on our pork at almost the exact same minute after Riv turned in, and I kind of got my stuff going, got my stuff over here, back in my au jus and, getting ready to get my box ready. And I look over and I see Luke, and he's got these beautiful money muscle slices on his board. He's just sitting there with a whole bowl of paintbrushes, and he's just brushing away and brushing away and brushing away. And I get the parts I'm trying to figure out. I'm going to make sure I put in the box on my board, do my sauce and rubs and different stuff, and I organize, and I go, okay, here, and I build my box. And I look over at Luke, and he's still just brushing away, brushing away, brushing away. Fortunately, Lynn Brown was there to run my boxes this weekend. So I shut the box, cleaned it up, handed it to her. She goes, and here's Luke just brushing away and brushing away. And I thought, man, he's either really on to something, or it's so bad he's trying to brush it until it just completely goes away. I don't know what he's got going on here. And then he builds his box, and he had a guy there running his boxes as well, and hands me a piece, and I hand him a piece of my pulled, and and I'm gonna stop there. But that's
one was good and one was not.
I think I would make that statement. Yes.
One was good and one was not. And folks, this is my favorite part of this whole story. So I take the brisket out, slice it, and I just look over at Brian and just stare at him like, like this is good,
Mm-hmm.
And Brian looks at me and goes, do not screw that up. And little did I know that he was referring back to what he just witnessed in pork, and witnessed somebody who was, number one, not confident in what they were doing, and number two, not committed to what they were doing. And number three, just way overthinking something.
The tenderness on your pork was really good. There was something with the taste, and you and I talked about it. I didn't care for it, and I think it got judged accordingly.
Yeah.
And that's not knocking anything. We all need this conversation, right? But I knew when I saw you slice that brisket, and I've seen you slice brisket before, and you and I have cooked a ton of briskets, and so you know when you've got one. You know when you've got one and when you sliced that brisket and you picked up the first slice without slicing the second one, I was like, oh man, that's A+ there. And then I was sitting here going, man, I don't really want to screw him up, but I don't want him to screw that up like he just did that pork. And that's why I was like, don't screw that up. Don't screw that up. Just get that in the box. Don't screw that up.
Right. Oh man. Yeah. So didn't screw it up. It finished 7th, which I was probably a little bit too demonstrative at awards and shook my head kind of like I thought it deserved better than that. But hey, good score in that crowd, 7th.
Yeah, I mean, that was a strong field. It was a small field, but strong field. And yes, it finished 7th. Personally, I think that was a top 5 brisket all day. I could see that brisket winning. It was that good. But that's also the difference in table. There's 4 tables.
Right.
And you put it on a different table, and I don't know if you won the table or not. I'm assuming you did, but
Did not.
but worse, but I think you actually get a better score at a different table at the same time. It's just how that goes. But you also could have got a lower score. So anytime you finish in the top 10 or especially top 5,
Right.
count the blessings. I mean, we've all turned down what we thought was first place meat, and you finish 4th, and it's hard not to be disappointed once you have 100 cooks under your belt. You know what you're supposed to be doing. But at the same time, you did all you could do and put it in the hands of others.
Right. Right. And, we had a great time. We both had pretty good results. Brian was 5th overall, I believe, or 4th.
4.
Brian was 4th overall. I was 9th overall, which might very well be my highest showing ever in Western North Carolina. Never have traditionally done well in that part of the country. And I'll take it, after a couple rough weeks in Florida with different things going wrong, different days, and trying some different stuff out just to see where we are. It works, but we both have lots of things to move forward with in terms of, successes and things that we need to work on.
Mm-hmm.
So I go back to my pork shanks, my yips, and had a lot of time on the way home to think about this. I drove home, started leaving right after awards, and got a little stomach problem on the way home, so had to pull over and spend the night. So I had all day, or all afternoon Saturday, all night Saturday night into Sunday, and then Sunday morning driving, thinking about pork and thinking about why this is such a problem. And, talked to you extensively about it, talked to Kim extensively about it, and the messages are pretty clear. Number one, it's not like I've been terrible at it forever, so find something that you used to do that works, and it wasn't that long ago that it worked. A lot of people would say, why don't you take your own class on Barbecue Champs Academy? And
maybe something to that.
Maybe there's something to that. But I want to touch on some advice that you gave me, which was do something that you're going to be confident in and do it and have the confidence.
Right.
And that's something I've been thinking a lot about.
And that's the same thought process I've had this week on ribs, because it wasn't that long ago I was a good rib cook. I scored well, and I've gone awry somewhere. And when I said that to you, it was almost as if I was talking to the man in the mirror. I think we were both driving, and I was talking through a process with, I think, my pork, and I was like, I don't know why I don't do this or this or this or that, and ribs and this and trying this. And then you were talking about pork, and I made that statement. You need to come up with something that's yours, that you got confident in, that you can run like riding a bicycle, and be confident in it, turn it in and go. And it was like I was talking to the man in the mirror, with me about ribs.
Mhm.
And in our two weakest categories this weekend, and it's happened more than just this weekend, we each were calling audibles on the fly, in those categories. And I think it's just because it gets in your head, and you do. I mean, you called audibles as you were processing you went back to the smoker,
Multiple times.
multiple times with different pieces of pork. And sometimes that's necessary. Don't get me wrong. So just because your plan or your program may not have that doesn't mean that there's one contest where you may have to call an audible to fix it, to make it that little bit better. If it's going to be bland and tough, you might as well throw something at it and see what happens. But your pork the tenderness was perfect, and the porky flavor itself was nice. And then the other stuff is what I think changed it. But
A lot of human error.
a lot of human error, and that's where I was on ribs too. So when I said that, it was me talking to the man in the mirror. I just happened to have a good friend.
Yeah. So steps moving forward. I've got a bunch of pork to cook this week for some catering that I have coming up. So I will be trimming. Huh?
It's a beautiful opportunity to practice.
It is. I'll be trimming a bunch of those down into what I feel like I've come up with. And buddy, let me tell you, I got home Sunday and was watching Liverpool soccer match,
Mm-hmm.
and I went and got my stack of notes. I mean, stack of notes from all the classes that I've ever taken, and just started going through them and reading everything that I could about pork and doneness and tenderness and injections and rubs and wraps and, and all just kind of, and this is going to sound terrible, but it all just kind of clicked into what I was doing early last year.
Mm-hmm.
Or a variation of that,
Mm-hmm.
and eliminating some of the stuff in there that, number one, it's not me. Number two, I don't like the taste of it. So why am I doing it? And there's no confidence in that when you don't have that. Right. And so that's what's going to happen this week. We're going to be doing some couple of practice runs through and just see if we can get this right, get this ship turned around here in a few weeks.
Well, the good news is you're a good enough cook to understand and recognize that and make those adjustments and get better, and you're a good enough cook this weekend with your practice. If you run some of those butts and run your practice timeline, recipe, injection, everything, you'll know when you get to the end product.
Yeah.
This is it. This is it. This is what I want. This is this. And your next cook will go into it with like no questions, no on the fly adjustments, no looking over at this bottle of this or shaker of that and go, I'll try it. Somebody else told me to try it. I'll try it. You're not going to do that. You're going to stick to the plan.
You're saying that now.
We're saying that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I probably
So
just
ribs.
wait for me to get a bunch of free rubbing sauces. People could just bring me stuff. They know, he might try it on the fly and mess his stuff up. It may happen.
You got a plan for ribs?
I do, actually. I do. I did basically what you did. I went through, my notes in my phone and, I've got a couple of old notebooks, and people think that what worked maybe 10 years ago when you took some sort of a class won't work now. They say the barbecue, we've all heard it. It's changed. It's changed. It's changed. And in some respects it has, but there's still a lot of that old stuff and I say old, but people are using them right now,
Oh, absolutely.
People are still using butcher's injection or Cosmos or, Blues Hot or Guns Hot or whatever. And it still works. And you just have to come up with a plan. So I kind of did the same thing you did. I went through all of my notes and my thought processes and looked at some side notes that I had made on what I thought about this class and maybe what I thought, it was perfect here. And I've got a plan, and I've got 2 cases of ribs on order. And next weekend, I'm probably going to have some very happy friends.
And that's the way to do it.
It is.
Get it back and try it out. Yeah. So overall, fantastic weekend. A lot of learning, a lot of fun,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of giving each other shit.
That was that was so many laughs. I think Slide and Roses, those guys over there, and some of the other ones, I think they spent their weekend watching us a whole lot because it was a ball of fun, lot of fun. Henry Jones and those guys did one killer potluck on Friday night. Now I'm not typically a huge potluck fan, but man,
No,
that shrimp, I bet we ate 3 pounds apiece.
I hate potlucks.
Yeah,
I can't stand them.
they're normally gut bombs.
Right. And this one, man, yeah, Henry knocked it out of the park with the low country boil, which also I normally despise and hate. And that one was, I mean, they dumped out all these shrimp and they were so perfectly seasoned and cooked. And we just sat there. Everyone was standing around and they dumped out all these shrimp. You can't do that in a room full of fat guys. I mean, we all attacked it like a bunch of piranhas and somebody just threw a goldfish in the tank. It was like,
Yeah, it was a great potluck. George DeMartz, actually, it was his first organizing event, if I'm not mistaken. And I think George did a fantastic job. You know, Noel Kay was there with Brian Stewart. They were the KCBS reps. That was their first rep duo together. You know, they've all, you know, shadowed and teamed up, and so it was nice having those guys there. They did a fantastic job. Noel organized this event last year, so I'm sure that was a comfort thing for George to have him there.
yeah,
And then Alan Rothrock was there, which I'm sure gave a little bit of comfort to Noel and Brian of having a seasoned rep on hand. You know, it was a beautiful teamwork amongst everybody. The host, the organizers, the reps, the teams. It was just it flowed well.
it did. And I mean, it's a contest in the devil spot of North Carolina that I will find hard to keep off of my calendar.
Yeah.
A lot of fun, great time. Enjoyed the atmosphere that we cooked in. It was really cool and got some stuff to work on, you know. So moving forward, I'm excited. I'm going to try and develop some confidence in that category this week and we'll get her done.
And the rest of the country can look out if you do.
We'll see. Something else will fall off. That's how barbecue works.
If it was simple and easy and if everything tasted the exact same, we all wouldn't be doing it. You know, that's the good thing about our chicken. Like my chicken was good and your chicken was very good. And even though I finished first and you finished fourth or fifth or whatever, that doesn't necessarily mean that mine was better than yours. It score wise, it does. And the beautiful part is we had both thighs, but they were two completely different chickens.
Yeah.
And I hear a lot of people, they say everybody's just cooking the same stuff and turning it in. And I'm like, no, they're not.
Not
No,
close.
they're not. You know, and that was a good example of that. You could still have and get judged fairly for it not tasting the same,
Right.
you know, one versus the other. Because I'm sure first to fourth we were probably less than 2 points apart. You know, I have not looked, but I bet you we were less than 2 points apart.
And I'm pretty sure we were on the same table
Okay.
because, well, I don't know. I was going to judge that on turn-ins, but because you were in really early in the window and then I went super early too.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to try and pull it up on KCBS here real quick, but it's not letting me log in. Wish there was an easy way to find this on here.
Yeah, chicken, we were 1.2 points apart. We were on the same table.
Right.
I finished first on the table, you finished second, and we were 2 points away from each other. And the beauty of that is, like I just said a while ago, we did not have the same chicken. We had the same piece of chicken, and we were both cooking thighs, and we were both on. Well, you weren't on stick burner on your chicken,
Nope.
but you were on the drum. But their cooking timelines and everything were not but so dissimilar, and there was two different types of chicken. My finishing was a little bit different than your finishing. I think that was the biggest difference. And
our textures were both different too.
Our textures were both different. Yep. And yep, textures were different. My finishing was different than your finishing. I mean, but it's still only 1.2 points. That could easily flip flop next weekend somewhere else, you know.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And
You
I'm
don't
always
have
of
to
the
cook
opinion.
the same as everybody else. It
Right.
does
I'm
not
always,
have to happen.
if you're in the top 5, you could have been first. I mean, that's
I'm-
just the way it goes.
I've said it before. I've said it for years. If I'm in the top 10, and especially in chicken where scores are typically pretty tight, I'm nowhere near good enough to tell you how to find that extra 2 points.
Right. I don't think
And,
anybody is.
and nobody is. And that's my
Right.
point is cook to get in. My goal is to get into the top 10 in all 4 categories. And I really shoot for the top 5, but that's, exceedingly difficult. And because if I'm in the top 10 in all 4 categories, I'm in the running, you
Right.
know,
You're in the game.
that's right. I'm in the game, and that's all I can shoot for is to try to be in the game. I don't want to hit a home run in one category and bomb 3. I want to hit singles and doubles in all 4.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that was a great rundown after that. What we had a great weekend and both did a lot of learning. So
Yep.
what's your next one?
I think right now my next one is Urbana, the double in Urbana, Virginia.
Yep. Same here.
I love that contest, and I had a
He
good
loves
year
you.
last year. Finished reserve grand champion both days. Lost both days by a point each day. But I'm not good enough to find that point. I said a while ago, but hopefully I can find that point, or at least somebody will lose one this year. But that's my next one is that double.
Yep. Same as us. Same as
Mhm.
us.
Yeah,
We'll
so I
talk-
got 2 or 3 weeks here to kind of iron out a few kinks in the rib armor and see what we can do.
And I'm not sure if you're aware of this or not, but we have a plethora of distractions throughout that 4-day period of that contest.
Not aware of any such distractions.
That is the first 4 days of the NCAA tournament.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh.
It's never
Okay.
happened before.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well-
So I will be pulling in there Thursday as early as I can and getting the TV hooked up outside. And
Yeah.
letting
We're
her
definitely
rip.
going to have that figured out.
Right. And my plan is, any of you listening, I'm going to have the TV going. Anybody else wants to bring their TV over and has a source they can hook it to, we can have multiple TVs going, and I'm going to bring the Gateway Go-To and the Blackstone and just keep ripping out food and watching some hoop.
We got to
Thursday.
cook some silver chicken wings, man.
Yeah, right?
We got
Let's
to.
do that. Let's
Yeah.
do that. Cool, man. All right. Well, thank you for your time, buddy. It's always
Absolutely enjoyed it as always, Luke. It's always an honor to be on here, and I'm shocked every time you invite me, but I'm glad you do.
You should stop being shocked. You're basically a co-host at this point, so sure you're going to be on a lot more in the future.
Well, I hope so. Let's do it again soon.
All right, guys, keep practicing, keep cooking, check us out. Make sure to like and follow the podcast. Make sure to send it around. And also, take my own advice and go watch my own pork program on barbecuechampsacademy.com. So, all right, buddy. We'll see you in a few weeks.
Thanks, Luke. Have a good one.
Thank you for listening to Pitmaster, an Old Virginia Smoke podcast. Be sure to subscribe and like the podcast, rate the podcast, and to share it out with your friends. Also, be sure to check out the Old Virginia Smoke TikTok as well. Old Virginia Smoke, one word. That's all you have to search for. It's hilarious. Tune in next week for another great episode of Pitmaster. For companies interested in advertising, please contact Old Virginia Smoke directly via www.oldvirginiasmoke.com. Pitmaster, an Old Virginia Smoke podcast, is edited by Chris Sedanka. Pitmaster, an Old Virginia Smoke podcast, is a property of Old Virginia Smoke LLC.
Old Virginia smoke.